Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Tree.
Hello, Karen.
Hi Tree, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And Tree, what's your one minute introduction of what you do?
Yes, I am Vietnamese Chinese. I study my PhD start from 2017 and I finished my study in November 2020. It just took me around 3.5 years. I suppose it should be 3 years, but because of the COVID-19, now it took me half year more. And then I finished my PhD study in 3.5 years. And then after that, I was stuck here. I have been stuck here for 21 months already, and during that time I'm working as a tutor and I'm working as a research assistant for some research project.
Yeah, and that's pretty much precisely how we met because I went to one of his classes. And so just like to know a little bit more about Tree growing up, a bit about his childhood. So Tree, what kind of child were you like growing up?
When I was a child, I suppose my parents tried to guide me to follow some of the way they want. For example, they will try to guide me to study well in the school, and then they try to let me to enter. Do you know in Vietnam we have the Vietnamese education system? It means that that's the official system. But because my parents want me to learn the other languages and to keep our Chinese culture, so that's why they sent me to the Chinese school. It means that when I was a child, I entered two schools at the same time. In the morning, I have to go to the Vietnamese school, and in the afternoon, I have to go to the Chinese school. But the Chinese school, that's just like the place for you to learn foreign language only. That's not the official school. So, but it couldn't last long until I finished my elementary study. I quit my Chinese school because the exercise and the assignment from the official Vietnamese school is more and more.
Yeah,
I was more and more.
Much.
Yeah, too much. And then I had to quit. And then I just focus on my official Vietnamese school only. And then it lasts until I finish my university degree, my bachelor degree. Yeah. But during that time, when I had time, I usually went to the, some of the extra class. For example, I learned about English, I learned about Chinese, I learned about calligraphy, and something like that. I just took my free time to learn those kind by myself, and especially when I was at home, my parents keep talking Cantonese with me, and then we watch the Hong Kong movie, the Hong Kong drama, and then we keep our Chinese culture at home. Yeah. So that's why we have just like when I was a child, we developed in a multicultural environment. So you can imagine in my home, we use Cantonese as the mother tongue, and then when I enter the Chinese school, we study Mandarin, and then Cantonese. Yeah. The same word, we need to learn two pronunciation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then in the Vietnamese official school, we learn about Vietnamese and English. So that's why when I was a child, it seemed that, to be honest, I feel a little bit pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many things I had to learn every day, and then my mom asked me and also my younger brother when I enter home, we couldn't use another language, we had to use Cantonese.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and that's one of the really unique things about Tree. 4 languages: Vietnamese, English, Chinese, and Cantonese.
Actually, not only 4 languages. You pick up my father, my grandfather was originated from Chaozhou, and then in Chaozhou they have the dialect. So that's why when I was a child, I heard about Chaozhou language, dialect, and then I know about Chaozhou a little bit, and then I keep practicing. I think now I can speak a little bit, not too much, but I can hear fluently, but I can use not very fluently, but it gave me time. I can capture it quicker. because I heard from my father when he talked to my grandmother and my grandfather. They talk each other. They speak together in 潮州话.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think when you're young and you're forced to learn so much, especially in terms of languages. I went to Chinese school myself, and then we're kind of like a little bit annoyed at our parents, like, why do we have to go? Other people don't have to. But then when you grow up, you realize that it really is your added advantage. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether that's an advantage or not.
It is! Why
Really?
isn't it? When you go to, if you're applying for other, like, I don't know, jobs and stuff, they'll be like, do you know other languages? You know, what is your culture? And then you have an extra advantage when you're communicating with other people.
Hope so, but I haven't seen it now.
I mean, because you're doing research, so I don't think,
Yeah.
it's that prominent, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, but what about in terms of personality-wise, when you were a child? Were you very extroverted, very chatty? Were you very academic? Were you sporty?
Let me think. I suppose I'm not quite extrovert because I was the oldest child in my family. I have a younger brother. My family is just like a nuclear family.
Yeah.
I am the oldest one because we follow the Chinese culture. My parents always said, "Okay, you are the oldest child. You need to be doing something good to let your younger brother to follow you." And then they always thinking about education. I think that's very popular in some Asian countries, not just only in China. I think even in Japan, Korea, maybe Malaysia or maybe Vietnam. They very ask the children to focus on study.
Yeah.
So that's why when I have spare time, I think almost my time, because I told you in the morning I went to the traditional official Vietnamese school, and in the afternoon I went to the Chinese school. So it seemed that when I have free time, I play video game, I play with my friend, I read the comic books. Comic book. First of all, when I was a child, I still remember I read the
Doraemon?
Doraemon.
Oh, too popular.
Seven Dragon Ball.
Oh, yeah.
Many, something like that. But all of them from Japan comic book. But I read it in Vietnamese.
Yeah.
But I also like to read it and watch the cartoon in Cantonese from Hong Kong. I really like it. Sometimes I always try to search from the comic book. Because in Ho Chi Minh City, the city I was born there, and then I grew up there. They just have some bookstore, helped by the run by the Chinese, and then I mean the Cantonese, the Vietnamese Cantonese, and then they imported some of the comic book, and then I always went there to say, hey, today do you have any new comic book like Doraemon or Seven Dragon Ball? And then I bought a lot. When I have it, I use all of my pocket money, or I ask my parents, please buy it for me, please buy it for me. And then that's why at home I have some books in Chinese. I mean the simplified character and some of the traditional character, just like Hong Kong and Taiwan, they use the traditional character. And then I can read both, but I prefer the traditional because when I was a child, I entered the class, and the class they taught us by using traditional writing, character writing, because they follow the textbook from Taiwan and Hong Kong. But when I become maybe teenager, the system changed. The Chinese school, they start using the Chinese textbook, and then they start to change to the simplified character. But at that moment, I was a teenager already. So I learned when I was a kid by writing in the traditional character.
Oh, damn, traditional is so much harder. Can't do it. I can only do simplified.
Yeah, I think that's just because acquaintance only.
Yeah, so familiar with that one. Yeah, so you mentioned that in Asian culture, academics is super important. So did your parents have an idea of what they wanted you to do as a career when you grew up?
Yeah, to be honest, when I was a kid, they always say, "Oh, Trey." Actually, at home, they didn't call me Trey because Trey, that's the Vietnamese name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they always call me my Chinese name. Not just only Chinese name. That's the Chaozhou pronunciation.
Oh, wow. Can you say it? Can I hear it?
They call me Wing.
Wing.
Yes.
Oh.
Because my Chinese name is Zhirong. And Rong, the Rong, they pronounce in Chaozhou Hua, it means wing.
Wing.
And they call me Wing, W-I-N-G.
Oh, wing.
Yeah, W-I-N-G, Wing. Yes. Quite similar in the English pronunciation, Wing, right?
Yeah.
They call me Wing. Okay. What did you want to become when you grow up? And then I say, I would like to do something make me look professional. And then I say, oh yeah, you could be the doctor. You know what do you mean doctor? Doctor mean that medicine doctor.
Yeah.
I say, good. Or maybe you become a businessman. Because you know a lot of overseas Chinese, they always focus on doing business.
Yeah.
Because we are overseas Chinese, so that's why we try to use our advantage by running our own business. And then, I think, good, no problem. And then I say, doctor, not bad. And then I say, okay, doctor should be good. I think everybody, they like their children to be a doctor, right?
Yes.
And then, you know, one of the things I'm thinking, I should be the surgeon for heart. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm not quite sure I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
If at that moment I have more knowledge or more consultation or counsels, I think I will try to learn the Chinese traditional medicines. You know what we call
中药.
No.
Don't know that.
It should be 中医, not 中药.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
In English, we call it the Chinese medicine system or Chinese medicine.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not quite sure. But I didn't have a lot of knowledge about that when I was a kid because I just know that. So they just showed me that you can be the doctor in medicine. I say, oh yeah, good. I'm just thinking maybe I will do some surgeon about the heart or something like that.
Yeah.
That's some of the things my parents tried to taught me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, you did become a doctor, you know, right? Doing PhD eventually, so still kind of same, but different. But also kind of curious. So growing up, what sort of like values did your parents instill upon you? Like,
yes, actually, my parents they try tradition.
Traditional.
Tradition. They're quite traditional. I would say that because they you know the Asian people, not just only Asian, I think maybe but the Vietnamese, the Chinese, Taiwanese, Hong Kong, Japanese, Korean, they have what they call the Confucians.
Oh yes.
The Confucianism, something like that. Right? We call it the 儒教.
儒教. Oh.
Yeah. Is it correct? So they want us to do something just like you should be honored. You should be treat everybody well.
Yeah.
Everything should be fair, and then you should do everything that you when you feel that when you stand out or when you're walking out, you feel you treat everybody well, and then everybody will admire you, and then don't take any advantage of the other.
Yeah.
That's what they taught me when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Strong moral kind of value.
Yes, very, very strong. And then I was influenced by them a lot.
Yeah. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Also kind of curious, so like now that you've all grown up, like what is your like own personal philosophy in life?
To be honest, because they taught me a lot about the very heavy, I think that's very about morality in that. So it's very difficult to change, especially when I in my age at the moment. But to be honest, as I told you, I grew up in what we call the multicultural. So I observed the Chinese culture, I observed the Vietnamese culture, I observed the Western culture. The Western culture is through the book, through some Western movie, and then I enter some of the English class. We observe that. So it means that inside my mind, I have only three cultures in myself, but the foundation is the Chinese culture. That's the Confucianism.
Hard to say.
Up to that is what we call the a little bit the Western culture. Not just a little bit, I think a lot, because we watch a lot of Hong Kong drama, Hong Kong movie, Hong Kong the Hong Kong pop song.
Yeah.
So in Hong Kong, actually, I'm not saying that's just my personal thinking only.
Yeah.
I think Hong Kong, that's a good thing to show you that how the Chinese culture interact with the Western culture.
Oh,
So
a good
that's why I would like to say, oh, that's the good place that I would like to learn, because they also keep the Cantonese culture or maybe the Chinese culture, but they still absorb a lot of the Western culture from England, right? Because they were,
I get you.
You
A lot
get
of
me?
like sort of Western influence.
Yeah.
Ah, and for you personally, do you think that you are more like, are you more Australian, more Vietnamese, more, like Chinese? Like for you, if you were to choose like one culture that you most strongly align with, do you know which one?
If you ask me the strongest culture or strongest philosophy or something, I think I'm a Cantonese culture.
Cantonese.
A Cantonese. Yeah, I will say that. Not just only the Chinese culture, because Chinese culture they include many subculture, I think.
Yeah.
For example, in Shanghai, they have their own language, they have their own culture, or maybe Sichuan, maybe they have their own subculture or something like that. Maybe from the north side of China, they have their own culture. But I suppose I tend to be more Cantonese.
That's very cool. And then like maybe just a more sort of general question to end this podcast episode on. So I guess like, you had your childhood and then you had now. So what kind of changes do you think that like have you changed as a person since you were younger, and maybe like what kind of changes?
Well, I think that's a big change.
Yeah.
To be honest, I had never thought that I could be a PhD.
Oh.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. I never thought I could be a PhD.
Did you think it was too hard or something?
It's not because too hard, because when I was a child, our parents tried to lead us to a very high position, just like a doctor, high standard, like doctor in medicine. But when we are growing up, we know that it's not easy, to be honest. It's not easy. That's one of the things I stopped my challenge to enter the medicine school or medicine university, because it's not easy, to be honest, to enter the medicine's university. And at that moment, I changed to the University of Economics. Oh. And then I studied my Bachelor in Economics in Foreign Trade, or now they changed the name to International Business, because I have some of the strength related to my multicultural, related to my I can use different kind of language. That's one of the things.
See,
that's
it
my
is
advantage.
An advantage.
That's my advantage. But they didn't use a lot in my Cantonese or Mandarin. They just focus on English and Vietnamese, to be honest. So that's why I still say that I didn't think that's I can use my advantage so far. And after that, what did it change? I got my master degree scholarship from Taiwan, and then I went in to study my master degree there, and then the whole program is 2 years, and I just finished in 1.5 years.
Wow, how did you do that? Workaholic.
Not just workaholic, because at that moment, I'm very, very focused. Because that's in my personality. Because I thought that when I focus, I would like to finish that one. I will try my best to finish that one. I don't want to let myself to be distracted by something else. And because of that, I just finished it. One of the thing pushed me to finish in 1.5 years, because I think I could do that. Why I didn't do that? And then I would like to finish as soon as possible, because I would like to find a job after that. That's my thinking. I would like to go back to work as soon as possible. Before I got the scholarship from Taiwan. I working in industry for maybe 2 years already before I went there. So that's why I know the industry, I know academia. So when I entered Taiwan and I enrolled in the program, I suppose I could finish it. Why I didn't finish it sooner? And then I went back to work. And when I finished my master degree, my supervisor in Taiwan asked me, Tree, I suppose you are very talented for PhD. I will recommend you to do your PhD. I said, no. They say, I suppose, my supervisor told me that I suppose you are very talented and you are eligible to got the scholarship, full scholarship and living stipend sponsored by the top university in Taiwan. But I just told him that I didn't want to study my PhD because I told him that if I follow the PhD degree, it will take me around 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And during that 4 or 5 years, I should spend my time in industry rather than study.
Earning money.
Not just earning money, because I would like to earn some real experience.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if I got my PhD, to be honest, I don't know how about the other country, but in Vietnam, sometimes the salary is lower than you work in industry.
Oh,
Yes.
surprised.
Not surprised. I think it's quite popular in some of the developing country or something like that.
Oh.
Because you know the education system, they still receive some sponsorship from the government.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can you compete? That's not the company.
Yeah.
That's something like you do something to contribute to the society. So how could you collect a lot of money from the student and then get paid the academia with the high salary, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, I never thought that I would study my PhD and then I went back to Vietnam to work in academia. Yeah. But one of the points changed my life is when I went back to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam maybe 10 years ago. I couldn't find a job in industry. Yes. So and then I just found a job in one of the top company. They have the branch in Vietnam. I'm not sure whether you know Cathay Life Insurance.
Oh, not too familiar.
Yes, Của Thai Rân Sâu.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I worked for them for around 8 months, and then I changed to work in academia in our MIT University as a research officer. And I started my career there as a research officer to do data analysis, data collection, literature review, writing research paper. And then that job took me around 4.5 years.
Whoa!
And because of that, if I didn't get the PhD degree, I couldn't have further step in my career.
Yeah, you couldn't be like promoted.
Yeah, not just promoting, because if you work in academia for a long time like that, you need a PhD to help you to continue in a career path. Yeah, so because of that, that pushed me to apply for scholarship again, and then I got the scholarship from UQ, and then I came here to complete my PhD.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, right?
So that's why you see that's a big change compared to my original thinking to be a medicine doctor.
Yeah.
And then change to a businessman.
Yeah.
And then change to academia.
Yeah.
So do you say that's a big change? But that kind of big change not because of my thinking. It's just because sometimes my personality, because of the environment, and because of the I would say something that's not in our plan, and then we need to change.
Yeah, but that's really good that you are very open to change and also very adaptive.
I think that's our survival skill that we need to have. Yeah. But for example, if I didn't change, I still need a job at that moment, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't change, I didn't get that job, I still need a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is with the close of our first episode, so stay tuned for later. Let's say bye.
Bye. Thank you, Karen.
No worries.